Hi there, it's Sandra here from Create in Spain. Today I'm starting off with a square card base and I have put my first layer onto the front. Now if you are like me and you find layering quite difficult to get done properly, your best bet is to start with an oversized base. Line up your top edge with the fold, and then if you haven't got it quite right you can always trim the sides and the base down. So inside this is going to go the other piece of this card. It doesn't quite fit inside because I have actually backed it with another piece of card. It was a bit thin, but it's cut from the same pattern. And in this particular instance, what I want to do is to go around the edge of this with a deep blue pen colour. So I've got my alcohol marker, I've tested the colour and I'm happy with the colour. And now all I have to do is to do the lines like that around the edge. When you've done it, make sure you clean off your ruler just in case you end up using it for another colour at some point, because it might pick up the remaining colour on the ruler if you are using another alcohol marker. And if you were going to do a pale pink or something like that, you really wouldn't want that happening. So I know that's going to go in there, but I want to actually put some things on here before I stick it down there. And one of the things I've got is my sentiment. And this is going to sort of just about peek over the edge. Now I cut it in two different cards because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted the effect to be, but I think I prefer to put that one on something else and go for the deep blue because it does have to match up. Alright, so I want to put that in there somewhere. I want my flowers around here, so I just want a few little stalks. That's all I'm after, is just a few little stalks. I have these little flowers which are cut out from embroidery backing as it happens. They've been cut out from some embroidery backing that I coloured with either watercolour or something, and I cut a load of these out and I've just had them in my stash for a while. Take a ball tool if you have one and you can either distress it or just make it so that it's not completely and utterly flat. You can even use pair of scissors and just distress the petals, and it can be any flower shape that you've got that you can cut out. It doesn't matter. When you've got your shape, what you want is a nice centre to it, and for this time I'm going for a little pearl centre. I want this to be quite subtle. I don't want anything too in your face. And I just need a little dab of glue to stick those down. There we are, got those in place. And the other thing I have here is a tiny little charm that I've made. This was made with an acrylic background and then I coloured it with some UV resin that I tinted. I tinted the back of it with just an alcohol marker and then put the resin on the top. And then I did a little vinyl heart as well. And so I'm going to put that underneath there. So a little silicone glue on the back of the bow. And then I want to put my hello on. Now I could possibly raise it up if I wanted to add yet more dimension, but because I'm actually going to be putting foam pads underneath this, I'm going to keep that flat. Now this sentiment is one that I made from an adjusted font because I like the look of the writing, but it was a very thin line font and I didn't want it quite that thin. So I adjusted it in SureCutsALot by making it much bigger than it needed to be, adding an offset and then shrinking it back down, and then putting back the holes that were in there originally. And that makes it just how I wanted it to be. Have my jar of silver flake here. Now to put it on, I've used again the Zig glue. It's one of those glues that dries tacky, which is excellent for this. And I am just going to take a little bit of a silver flake on a stiff brush. So take a little bit out at a time. Do not use masses of it in one go because the chances are you will not need it. So as you can see, there's hardly any wastage with that. If I wanted to, I could gather up any remnants and just tip it back into the jar. But to be honest, I'd probably find I get more puffing out of the jar than I get in it. So I'm just going to allow that to go into the bin. We just have a slight silver frame just to uplift it a little bit. And then I'm going to put some foam tape in there to sit my centerpiece on. Want to add some little dewdrops, so I've got some UV resin here. I'm just going to put a tiny little amount on a piece of plastic, piece of scrap. And I have trusty toothpick. Take some and just dot. And that can go under a UV light. After having put the little dewdrops on, I decided they didn't really add much to it, that they needed a bit more oomph. So I've got some powder here which is designed for going on your nails. It's Metal Shock, Essence Metal Shock nail powder. And I know this stuff is absolutely amazing silver. And so what I'm doing is just dabbing it with my finger over the top of the cured UV gel. Now the UV gel is still ever so slightly tacky because I'd only given it a minute. And this silver powder adheres to it really, really well. And it's coming up beautifully. And I'm not even dipping my finger in the pot, I'm just using the lid, as you can see. And it's giving a really beautiful silver shine to these little dots. There we go. So I'm using next to nothing of that, and any extra powder can simply be brushed away like that. There we have it. I think that's a really sweet card that someone will be really glad to receive, especially as it looks like we're heading for yet another lockdown. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon. Take care now.